It's past 3:30, so we will call to order the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, City of Crescent City, County of Del Norte, State of California, this special session Thursday, April 19th, 2018. Would you please call roll?
Commissioner Cowan? Here. Chair Inscore?
Here.
Commissioner Greeno?
Here. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have two timed items this afternoon, and so you would find those as items number 6.6 in the agenda, the presentation of the Green Ribbon Awards. And since I would guess that the vast majority of you are here for that, now we will take that first. Mr. Ward, would you like to say anything before we begin?
These Green Ribbon Awards are the only environmental award presented by a local government agency in Del Norte County, and it's our pleasure this year to celebrate all of the many volunteers who have done just fantastic efforts throughout the year doing cleanup efforts. And many of these groups have done it over multiple years, multiple cleanup efforts. So sometimes the accolades on the ribbon itself are a little vague, but we appreciate every one of the cleanups that people have done and each hour that volunteers have contributed towards those very important efforts. So that's mostly what we're presenting today, is Green Ribbon Awards recognizing cleanup efforts. There are a few additional ones, but that's mostly what we'll be doing today.
Very good. And we will provide an opportunity for a representative. We're not going to take the time for every person to speak, but we will have an opportunity for a public comment during the Green Ribbon Awards. So if someone from the organization that's represented here would like to say a few words, we certainly would like to give you that opportunity. And then when we return to our regular open session items, we will have general public comment at that time. So with that said, then I'm going to go ahead and read our awards this afternoon, and if you would come, Mr. Ward is going to present that to you and or to the group, and if somebody would like to say a few words, then that would be wonderful. All right, are we ready? All right, our first Green Ribbon Award is given to Walter Mackelberg of the Surfrider Foundation for multiple beach cleanups in Del Norte County during 2017.
Walter does not appear to be here at this time, but they are continuing to organize beach cleanups, and the next one is coming up on Earth Day on South Beach, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that at this meeting. No need to take my picture.
All right, our second Green Ribbon Award is given to Home Depot for their donation of materials to support community cleanup in Del Norte County in 2017.
Do you like to say a word?
Yeah, just appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Let's space.
We continue to try to help out
Great.
and keep coming down and we'll support you.
Great, thank you. Our next Green Ribbon Award is given to Walmart for their donation of materials to support community cleanups in Del Norte County in 2017.
Very good. Thanks.
We are working, if anyone's interested, we're partnering with Joe Gillespie. He's going to be making a whole bunch of mountain bike trails around here. So we're going to be, we're kind of partnering with him on 5 different cleanups that they're going to be doing to try to get those going. So if anyone's interested, you can call, I'm Peter Davis, I'm the store manager of Walmart. Give me a call down there and we can partner together and help get cleaned up.
Great, thank you. All right, our next Green Ribbon Award is presented to the Interfaith Fellowship Council for organizing community cleanups during 2017. And I think Father Gregory is here to receive that for the council.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
And on behalf of all the people who have been working on this project, it's not me, it's those of them who are doing it. Thank you for this award, and we're going to be working on Brother Jonathan in the near future. So if anyone wants to come to that cleanup, please come. It makes our community always a beautiful place.
All right, thank you. Our next Green Ribbon Award is given to Roger Gitlin and the Take a Bite Out of Blight Group for organizing community cleanups in Delaware County in 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ted. We're a motley group of a lot of different people who've just come up here, including Team Home Depot and Surf Riders and Walmart and Take a Bite volunteers and Interfaith Council. So I wish, like you, if you would, please all come up. You are some of the 50 volunteers who took 7 tons of debris out from behind the bushes on Highway 101 in our next project, and I'd like to recognize Mr. Slagle, Dave Slagle, who's here on behalf of Hambros. We'll be undertaking that project where there's another big mess, and all in an effort to keep our county beautiful and pristine and welcome to our community. And Mr. Slagle, are you here? Okay, come on up, and you're phase 2. You just don't know that yet. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next Green Ribbon Award for outstanding group cleanup effort is given to Jerry Hemmingson, Helen Ferguson, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, for organizing one of the most massive cleanup efforts in Delaware County history, collecting over 200 tons of debris from the Pacific Shores subdivision. Have anyone?
They don't seem to be here, but it was a tremendous cleanup effort, and we really appreciate it.
All right. Our next Green Ribbon Award is for outstanding group cleanup is given to Louisa McCovey and the Yurok Tribal Council for organizing the sponsorship of the annual Klamath River Cleanup.
There we go.
We accept this award on behalf of the dedicated staff of the Yurok Environmental Program and all the volunteers that come out every year to make it happen, and invite all of you folks on April 28th to come out and help us have another successful Klamath River cleanup. The Yurok Tribal Office, 9 a.m. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you haven't attended the Klamath River cleanup, it really is one of the best organized and most pleasant cleanup efforts that happens each year. So we really appreciate the Yurok tribe for that. Thank you.
Before anybody leaves, if you would, what I'd like you guys to do, and I know we just lost Team Home Depot. Sorry about that. What I'd like to do is maybe if we could get everybody after we finish right here in the audience and bring the camera up here and get a picture of the whole group together. So, great idea. So don't anybody leave. Anybody else leave? I'm sorry. I should have said that up front. My apologies. And our next Green Ribbon Award is for outstanding commitment to recycling is to David Slagle and Randy Scott from Hambro WSG.
Do you want to say a few words, Randy? No, we've undertaken this endeavor after doing quite a bit of research on it, and it does appear to be profitable, and we are a for-profit organization, and I think that's the key to recycling, is to make it as economically viable as we can. So we need all the support from the community and appreciate the others that have helped us with it. So it's got to be a team effort, and let's make it work. So.
All right, thank you.
I just want to say one thing. I want to dedicate this to our staff too, like you guys. That without the people that we have down there to recycle, we couldn't do and be successful as we are. So just what I want to say.
Great, thank you. And our final Green Ribbon Award for this year is...
Sir, we have two.
You have two?
The Smith River Alliance is also.
Did I miss it? You get
Only
putting them on
temporarily.
both sides of the page. Sorry, Grant. Our next to last Green Ribbon Award for the year for outstanding group cleanup effort is given to Grant Worskell and the Smith River Alliance for organizing river and community cleanups in 2017.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, we got to get them all.
Lori, trash dog, come on. Ed, up here.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. All right, great.
Okay. So I do want to just say a couple things briefly. It's been over 10 years we've been doing major cleanups, initially on the National Recreation Area, and our public trust partners, as in the Forest Service, their hotshot crews, Redwood National and State Parks, and more recently the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, really deserve acknowledgement for partnering in these things. The other thing is businesses, not all of whom are here, and what you love are those businesses like Home Depot and Walmart that are helping with every cleanup, but there's some that have really contributed to our success and they're not here. That would be Crescent Ace Hardware, a Chimney Craft, of course Home Depot's been mentioned, and I have a story to tell about Rumiano Cheese, who's another one of our partners in these cleanups. It was Joby Rumiano who started really calling people and saying, hey, we got a problem. There's an abandoned motorhome on the Lower Smith River. How do we get rid of that? Who's going to do it? So he copies all these people, and it's that kind of push, and he just kept at it until it finally took a team of agencies and entities to get rid of that. And it really underscores, I think, the theme of all of your awards, which is it's a total team effort. It's every stripe of politics and faith, and it's so gratifying to work on these things, and you know, it's good exercise and you get it done. So I love your idea of a total group picture, because it really is our community at its best, you know, working together. So thank you very much for
Thanks, Grant.
recognizing the total effort.
Yeah. Okay, so the final Green Ribbon Award is given to Richard Knutson and West Park Properties for outstanding efforts to improve recycling behaviors of their tenants at their properties. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, you bet.
I just mostly want to say thank you to Recology. They're very cooperative, very open for suggestions. A couple of things that they helped me with were getting a list of things that I could hand out to the tenants, and also for getting it in Spanish. That really, really did help a lot. I appreciate it.
Good deal.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, let's get everybody right down here in the front.
Yeah, right in front.
Should we just stand? No, you have to stand. We're not gonna be able to get everybody otherwise.
Introduce Fish and Wildlife and Frank Kemp who's here. If we could take a moment, just, his property was the one we cleaned up. Yeah. Okay. We can do that now. Let's get the picture. Okay. And then, okay. I'll come back and do it. Yeah, okay.
Everybody in here.
Squish in a little bit. Everybody get cozy.
It's all one big community. Turns out we are.
Cozy up. Looking good. Eileen, squish in just a little bit. There you go. All right. We got it all.
Great job.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I neglected, in the excitement of all the people here, I neglected to welcome to the group Frank Kemp from Department of Fish and Wildlife. Frank, are you here? I didn't see him earlier, and he was here, and it was that property, Fish and Wildlife, which our project cleaned up, and there's more to do. Some more work, so thank you again, Frank Kemp from Department of Fish and Wildlife, and also Jeremy Herber from Recology, who made a contribution to our, by discounting the bins available to do these cleanups. So thank you, gentlemen, for both of you.
Thanks, Roger. Did you want to say anything?
I'd just like to thank everybody, all the volunteers that have helped out for years now on cleanups on the department property on behalf of Fish and Wildlife. It's amazing. We appreciate it. Can't thank you enough, and looking forward to keeping up the good work. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Frank. Thank you. To the room.
That was such a well-attended meeting.
Okay. Well, it's not 4 o'clock, so we can return back to our regular scheduled programming. And we will return to general public comment. Any member of the public can address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. And after receiving recognition from the chair, please give your name and address for the record and limit comments to 3 minutes. We have any general public comment this afternoon? Yes, Ms. Cooper.
I'm in Cooper, Delaware County, and I sent each of the commissioners a one-page handout on an idea for improving self-hauling in the community. It's called enhanced self-hauling. In that, I think for the small, the producer of waste, it's inconvenient right now to self-haul in a few ways, and it's also inefficient in a few ways, in that many users have to wait on lines for a small amount of trash. They don't produce a lot, and so it seemed to me that why spin our wheels trying to weigh all these individual self-haulers and make long lines for ourselves, and why not have a prepaid bag like Hamburg's does, but for a smaller amount of waste, where someone could put in the back of their car their recycling, and a bag, either maybe a $3 16-gallon or a $5 32-gallon, whatever it be, make it equivalent but smaller to what we have now. Self-haul, now you have 100 pounds, which is beyond, I don't think I reach 100 pounds in 2 years, but unless I redid my house. But in any case, so for me and a lot of the people I see around me in the neighborhood, it would really work out better if we had didn't have to wait on lines, prepaid a bag, and we're already monitoring at the transfer station recycling. So you could easily have a place to put these prepaid bags and observe that it was correctly placed and that it was the proper bag. They could be purple bags, that easily observable, and we would all come to love the purple bags. So give it a thought. I think it would really increase your efficiency and make things so much more convenient for us, and I would think it would pay for itself, and more so even. Hamburg's has I think I was told it was a 32-gallon, but they pick it up at the curb for $7.75 or something like that. And so this is self-haul, so it should be a little bit cheaper than that, but equivalent, not to, I don't know many people who take advantage of the other thing, and the trucks don't go everywhere. And you've got your park bins filling up with small amounts that, because what the heck else do you do with an itsy-bitsy amount? So anyway, alrighty, thank you.
Thank you. Any other general public comment this afternoon? Seeing no other public comment, we'll close public comment and we will move into our open session items. Under the consent agenda, we have 5 items: the minutes from the regular session of Tuesday, March 20th, the director's vacation requests noted 3rd through 6th of May, 9th through 17th of June, 9th through 16th of July, and 5th through 12th of August, all in 2018. Payment of claim 8148 to High Tech Security for invoice 1802184 in the amount of $9,880 for addition of cameras and surveillance system upgrade. Payment of claim 8147 to North Coast Laboratories for invoices 139040, 138962, 138708, and 138681 in the total amount of $10,690 for analysis of water samples and a budget transfer in the amount of $12,615.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve the consent. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Chair Enscore?
Yes. Very good. Takes care of our consent. We'll move on to item number 2, our treasurer's reports. And first item on there is the director's report for April of 2018.
Thank you, Chair Enscore. So, in summary, the authority continues to operate the facilities, the Delaware County Transfer Station, the Klamath and Gasky Transfer Station at all open hours, and we provide these services for the fees that we collect and do not collect a penny of taxes to provide these services, though we do have the lowest rates in the region. I'd like to highlight some upcoming events in the coming month because it is Earth Month and we do have Earth Day coming up. So first of all, on Earth Day itself, we've got 4 different activities. So there's a South Beach cleanup. If you're interested in that, you can meet at Anchor Way and 101 at 11 a.m. There's a Pebble Beach cleanup. If you're interested in that, you can meet at Pebble Beach and Hemlock at 11 a.m. There will be a broom bash at the Crescent City landfill organized by Taller Stewards. If you're interested in that, please meet at the Lake Earl Information Center at the end of Old Mill Road at 1 p.m. And there's also a trail improvement for Craig's Creek Trail, and if you're interested in that, please meet at the boat ramp between Slant Bridge and Second Bridge at 10 a.m. on April 22nd. On April 28th, there will be the Sheriff's Prescription Take Back from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And so that's always a good event for those of you who have outdated medicines and need to dispose of those. There is also going to be, I believe, the Klamath River Cleanup. I'm trying to rapidly go through the agenda. It's elsewhere in the agenda. I think it's the 28th. Kira, if you could be looking that up as I'm announcing these other things. On April 30th through May 4th, Recology Del Norte will be doing their annual brush collection. That's for Recology customers only, but if you are a Recology customer and you would like to have some brush collected, you can call to make arrangements. You need to call by April 27th at 464-4181 to make arrangements, and they'll give you all the rules about setting that up. The city spring clean sweep is also a collection of yard debris from city residents, but that won't be until May, so we'll announce that next month. On May 11th at 11 a.m. on KFUG, we'll be having our regular radio program, Rethinking Recycling Radio. And on May 12th, we'll be having a composting workshop at the Community Health Center at noon. So that's a bunch of activities coming up, so we're all excited about those. Regarding other items that won't otherwise appear on the agenda, I'd like to highlight Hamburg WSG's buyback has moved from the south end of the parking lot at the Del Norte County Fairgrounds to a spot on the north end of the fairgrounds property. So if you're looking for that buyback, then go straight at the light along Ernie Silva Way, and you should find the recycling center shortly after you start on down that road. You had a question?
Well, something came up at another meeting yesterday regarding this. Is this a good time to interject our concerns?
Sure, why not?
And nothing has happened yet, but for safety reasons, you've got RCTA right there and all the buses coming out around that blind curve and a lot of pedestrians. So the drivers yesterday at Redwood Coast Transit Authority kind of brought that up, but all of a sudden they were there. And I don't know if it's going to become an issue. I don't know if there's something you guys can do to avoid that issue, but I wanted to voice the concern of theirs. Does that make sense? Do you know, because there's just that curve and those tall bushes and big buses and.
We moved to that site with the Fair Board.
Yeah, I found that out all right. I was told the Fair Board told you to do it. Now, and so now you got that, now you got someone else chiming in. And it may not be nothing. The drivers are certainly aware now to be careful because they know people are milling around. But maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. I just want everybody to realize that all of a sudden buses and pedestrians were coming together and we don't want them to collide. How's that? Okay?
Me neither.
Taken? You know, I'm just a messenger.
It's always good to be the messenger. Mr.
Oh,
Ward?
isn't it?
That mostly summarizes, there was something I misstated at the end regarding personnel. Joseph Hernandez has been placed on administrative leave pending disciplinary action, but he has not yet been terminated.
Okay.
With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding the director's report?
I have the time for the meeting at UROC.
Good,
office.
excellent.
It is April 28th at 9 o'clock at the UROC office.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Kira. So that's the Klamath River Cleanup, April 28th at 9 a.m. at the UROC office. Great event, and they usually have a good meal for you, and it's a great community event.
Okay.
Moving on to the treasurers and controllers reports, our cash flow continues to be good. Currently in the bank, we have $1,027,767 plus the last payment of $198,177. So our balances continue to accumulate. Regarding claims approved by director, once again, you see the largest payment goes to Hambro WSG for their good services at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. Looking on to our monthly cash and charge reports, you can see that our accounts are current, and specifically, the good news is that with 3/4 of the fiscal year passed, our agency is over $40,000 ahead of our budget in terms of income. So long as we continue to balance our budget transfers, and although the agency is still in the red because of the liabilities associated with the landfill and the construction of the transfer station, we are continuing to climb out of that hole towards the black.
Okay. Any questions regarding the financial reports? Okay. Any public comment on the director's report or the financial reports? All right. It's 3:58, so why don't we go ahead and adjourn from the Solid Waste Management Authority and reconvene now for our 4 o'clock timed item as the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority, and let the minutes reflect that Commissioner Greenow, Cowan, and Chair Inscore are present. And Mr. Ward, you want to discuss item number 1?
Yes, we have 2 items for the AVA, and Dominic Mello here is, I believe, to discuss both of them. The first one is a status report of activities since January 2018, when the last status report was provided.
All right, Dominic, welcome.
You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, there we
gotcha.
go. Got our quarter report. So the quarter there was kind of a light, and we just had 2 tows. Tagged a couple other vehicles, and people voluntarily moved them, so which is a good thing. And then typically it shows we have a $23,000 fund balance, and usually we're lagging in receiving our bills and stuff. So there's probably roughly about $6,000 outstanding off of that. So we're sitting all right for future abandoned vehicles and stuff. And I know the city has a rather large project coming up that's going to take a good chunk of that money out as well, but it'll still maintain a balance of being able to deal with anything that comes down the line.
Okay. Do we have any kind of, and I see that Mr. Taylor is here and I didn't ask ahead of time, do we have any kind of idea of how many vehicles are back there that potentially will be using the abatement authority to haul off?
You know, I toured it with Mr. Taylor, and there was quite a few back there, some trailers and a few vehicles. I think it would be a sizable amount of money to remove the trailers and the campers that are there.
But you think we can still do it with the budget that we have sufficient budget to get it done?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Can you enlighten me on what you're talking about?
I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to be doing another cleanup in the McNamara and Peak property behind Safeway, and so which is similar to what we did 6 years ago? 2013. Okay, 5 years ago. So, but that it's become a collection basin again for garbage and vehicles, and so.
Can we discuss possibilities of stopping that?
That will be an item to discuss later in the meeting, so maybe that might be more
excellent.
appropriate.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Okay. Anything
then-
else, Dominic?
Then the other item would just be the budget for the 2018, 2019 fiscal year, and it's typically 22,500 that we adopt. That's roughly what we receive through the AVA program and the collections with the DMV.
We don't anticipate the state coming and asking for any of our money this year, I hope. right?
No, hopefully not.
Yeah.
No, it was every 10 years we had to renew. We got about another 8 years, we're safe from that.
All right. Thank you. All right, thank you, Dominic. So if we don't have any questions, then I guess our action is to approve the budget. Is that the only action item we have? All right.
Motion to approve?
I do.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve, and it's been seconded to approve the authority budget for the Vehicle Abatement Service Authority for 17-18. Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Chair Enscore?
Yes. Very good. Having no other business for the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority, we will adjourn from the AVA and reconvene as the Solid Waste Management Authority, and we will continue with discussion and action items. And under number 3, landfill post-closure, we have a discussion regarding change order 3 with Lawrence and Associates. Mr. Ward.
Yes, thank you, Chair Inscore. Lawrence and Associates has been providing our semi-annual reports, though we, excuse me, though we collect the water samples, and those are analyzed by North Coast Laboratories, and we do some hand-metered samples. But the law now requires that either a registered geologist or a water quality engineer be the one responsible for preparing those reports, and we do not have one on staff, so we're perfectly happy to have Lawrence and Associates continue to provide these services. So this change order essentially puts them in line to prepare those reports for the next 5 years. And the additional amount to the contract would be $23,420, and the resulting total contract amount would be $56,427. Lawrence and Associates has helped us with a variety of water quality issues, but they've also helped us with the construction quality assurance during the transfer station floor construction. So they've been an ally of ours for several years running, and we're very pleased with their professionalism and the services they provide. So staff recommend approving this change order.
My question is are you factoring this change order and the increased $23,420 over the remainder of this year and next year, or is this something that is going to be impacting only into our current fiscal year budget?
Excellent question. It will be impacting the next 5 years fiscal year's budget.
So you're spreading this out over
we
this?
are.
Okay.
This is not a single year's expense. This is the $23,420 is spread out over 5 years.
So then you'll just increase the amounts proportionally over the next 4 budgets to compensate for the increased $23,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions for Mr. Ward? Any public comment? All right, then I'm looking for action regarding change order number 3.
I move to approve change order number 3 to the professional service agreement with Lawrence and Associates preparing required semi-annual reports and technical support through the first half of 2022 for additional amount not to exceed $23,420.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Chair Enscore?
Yes. Very good. We have no other landfill post-closure items. We will move on to the collection franchise under item number 4 and 4.1. We have a letter that you received in your packet from Jeremy Herber of Recology. Mr. Ward, you want to address this first?
Well, I do have something to say, but I think it'd probably be best to have Mr. Herber address his issues first, and then we'll continue the discussion.
All right, Jeremy, come talk to us about what's going on.
Afternoon. Afternoon. Basically, I just have a letter
that I wanted to read to the board, more or less in regards to kind of the current recycling situations and, you know, how we're going to be doing some basic combating of this issue. So technically, the recycling industry has been very successful at providing environmental benefits, including diverting materials from landfills, conserving natural resources, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions by displacing the use of raw materials. This success was accomplished through the combined efforts of both public and private industry to collect, sort, bale, and market recyclables to their end markets. For years, China has been the single largest consumer of recyclable material generated in the United States. China has consumed over 50% of the world's recycled paper and plastics in 2016, and over the past year, China has taken a number of steps, including bans and imposing strict standards to restrict recyclable materials imported into China. These measures are already having a significant impact on recycling within the U.S. and the rest of the world. Because so much material has previously been absorbed by China, this decision leaves much of the material without sufficient end markets. Historically, China has accepted 4 to 5% impurities in baled recycled materials, and as of January, China has announced that under its national sword enforcement program, it will no longer accept bales with more than 0.5% impurity. Recology is working to meet the new standard, but currently our bales still fall within the 4 to 5% impurity range. Less contamination in recycling bins give our sorters and machinery an opportunity to pull even more contaminants from the recycling stream, and that translates into cleaner bales that command a higher price when sold. When these commodities help offset the cost of collection and processing that benefit all ratepayers. Residents may be tempted to cheat a little bit about what they put in the blue bins, but obviously no recology worker wants to sort through a toxic slew of baby diapers, cat litter, or food products. Minor contaminants like a greasy pizza box or an unrinsed item can undermine our community's recycling efforts, and removing contamination from the recycling stream will become more important moving forward as the dealing with a tight commodity market. So some of the impacts that we're facing is lower revenue due to depressed commodity pricing, higher processing costs, higher transportation costs, and higher capital costs. The items that Recology are currently working on is ensuring collection of higher quality recyclable material, working with communities and leadership amongst the entire industry, communicating with our recycling partners to focus on quality and solutions, speaking with regulators, and to review our contracts with local HJ to ensure fair and equitable contracts. Recology strategy with our communities will be transparent in developing a communication plan that continues to provide clear information about the severity of the issue and the recycling market is facing in the industry today. We are committed to our communities and will work with our customers and regulators, provide recommendations on what should be recycled and how to minimize contamination. This is a great time to develop and execute public education programs focused on quality, and recycling the right materials correctly will minimize the negative impacts on the current market constrictions. And we will also need to continue our efforts on working with our communities on how to reduce contamination at the curb. We are not requesting formal relief at this time, and Recology will continue to do its best to sort out market recyclables. We still think that recycling is absolutely the right path to go down. There are a lot of social and economic benefits that we want to see continue, and we want to work with our customers and communities to make sure we're doing it the right way. That may mean that the cost of doing it could be more expensive. China's tightening of recycling policies could have one benefit. It will likely spawn more domestic jobs within the plastic and paper recycling markets. Thank you for your time. So basically, you know, when I was up here last time, I was kind of presented from the board to, you know, give us an update, what's going on. Across the industry, it's just not for Del Nord. It's a big deal. Everybody's struggling. As you hear, Oregon and Washington, a lot of those guys are sending their recyclings to trash. Recology is not doing that in any of those markets. We're still processing recyclables because it's the right thing to do. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to push that. There still is a need for it. There is some backlogging going on. There's a lot of people holding material because there's nowhere to take it as that market starts to turn. We're looking for different, you know, overseas markets again. and the domestic markets are still pretty full, but they're starting to move some products. So we're hanging in there, and we'll continue to do so, and do it at a high level. So that's basically really what I want to do, is just kind of educate people today on the struggles that not just Recology is facing, but everybody in this industry is facing, across the nation. So, any questions on that?
Well, we don't do it well here. We've been talking about this for a while,
Yeah.
and looking, it's not getting better, or very little.
There has been a slight increase.
When we're stocking 28 to 20, or 18 to 25%, that's not good. It doesn't even seem feasible. So I just don't know how we're going to get to a point. I mean, what did you guys say? You're at 4 to 5 down there, and you need to be at a half?
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the processing of the recyclables at those facilities. So currently, we're doing a lot of capital investments. We're trying to figure out, right now we're rerunning the material twice, which gets it to that level. We're getting to the 0.5%, but it's taken us twice as long. We're having to create extra shifts. We've had to hire more people, and those are
So at what point does Recology say, I give up?
Well, we don't give up. We're not. That's not the plan. The plan is that we're now investing into a further development of our processing plants, whether that's air sorters, robotics. We're now going down these roads, but there's a change of time. It takes time to what products work. How do we get it to that level? And we're faced Waste Management, Republic. They're all scrambling the same way as we are, is to try to figure out how to meet that demand and how to meet that market. And how we do it is we have to go to the next level. We have to go further. We have to find technology that does that.
Okay, so here, for us, it's, we've been talking about education and talking, and I just don't feel that we've made any strides in the last year.
I'd be happy to make a presentation in this regard, and we can talk further about it.
Okay. I'm just concerned. You guys know I am.
Right.
I've been concerned all along. I don't know how we're going to get there without drastic measures.
And I think that's kind of where Mr. Ward is going to address some of those measures
Okay.
that need to probably be addressed. It's not going to happen quickly, but these are things that, again...
It's been a year and a half
I
for
know.
me, and we haven't gone anywhere except to clear bags. That's not progress.
Well, today's the day to change that, right?
Thank you, Jeremy.
I thank you.
Can
Okay.
I say something?
Yes, sir.
You said the industry standard is about, what, 10%?
I think all
Now you're saying
communities...
it's 4%?
No. Let me clarify. So we're asking for the industry standard is 10% at the curb, okay?
Okay.
So what happens is that's what our target achievement is 10% contamination at the curb collection. Then once it goes to our processing facility, okay, and some of those contaminants are removed by either sorters, by hand, by automation, whatever that is, the normal allowance for a bale of material, like a 2,000-pound bale of material that we bale, usually can have up to 4 or 5% was the standard for when you ship it to an end market. They've allowed that. Now, China's the one that put the stop on that and says, hey, we're not in the business of disposing the U.S.'s extra trash, so we're going to cut that down to 0.5%. Since they've done that, nobody has been able to run the material through any of the plants in the United States one time and achieve that. They've had to run it 2 or 3 times to get to that impurity level. So technically,
Is this
it's
a
a technology
realistic
thing.
standard, this 0.5%?
Well, it might not be, but if we're going to use that market, we need to get to it. And
I mean-
so it's not really an option, so we just need to find the technology to do that, which means we need to make another investment in our processing to get there.
It sounds like we need to think outside the box here, because it's not working, is what it sounds like.
Well, possibly, but this
I mean,
isn't a
you look at
Del Nor
the
problem. This
commodity-
is a big problem.
You look at the commodity,
Yeah.
the cost of commodities, you said it went down 95%
Yeah.
within the last year?
Yeah, and it's not a forever thing too, but we don't know
That's
how
a
long it's going to hold
substantial
for.
amount of capital that's,
But that material's still being used properly, so even though there's not a market as of being, paid for certain materials. Sometimes when the market crashes on something, it picks up somewhere else, and there's a balance. Sometimes it all crashes at once, sometimes it's all up at once. It's just kind of a roulette game.
It just sounds like we in the market, you've got supply and demand, and so it sounds like we have a very large supply of recyclables, and so they're not worth anything.
Well, the problem is when you end a market that ate up 60% of all of the material we produced for recycling, there's going to be a oh my gosh, we have too much material and the price is going to drop. As that gets ate up through the domestic markets, there is other international markets that are now coming online, but it takes time. It's going to take a long time to do that, to get that transition to happen. We don't see that the China market's going to lift that requirement, so we need to meet it, and that's what we're doing right now. So there is going to be a time frame of we're a little backed up. We're going to be having a hard time moving some of the product, but we'll continue to do so because that product is still being used, it's being recycled, and it's being turned back into other products. So we just need to continue that pathway.
Do you think it would be feasible to explore other ways of getting rid of that waste, possibly waste to energy or any other possibilities?
Well, there's a lot of different options available
I know
on the
that that's
thing.
gonna get political down in
California obviously
Sacramento.
restricts some of those ideas, and some of them they're acceptable to. So I don't think anything at this point in time is off the table. But again, if it was an easy problem to solve, it would have been solved. I think we're on the right path with being patient. Unfortunately, is that we need to be patient. We need to try to get, and like I said, we're working very heavily on morphing some of our facilities to adapt to some of these requirements. There's also an influx of material in the domestic markets, which is a little rough right now. And so once that material gets eaten up, there's going to be a demand's going to come back. Now they're talking about opening more domestic markets, which is good for the U.S. economy, is to put more people to work by not sending it overseas, but to do it here. So it takes a year or two to put a facility like that together. So there is some challenges ahead. It's not over, but I think we can get there.
I want to point something out. We're talking about his issue. That's kind of Recology's issue.
Yeah.
But we still have a larger issue here. He wants us, even if the standard was 4 to 5, we're not close to 10% at the curbside. We have to deal here in Del Norte, we got to worry about us. And that 15 or 18 to 25%, in some areas higher, we have to get down to at least 10 to even get to his 4, and we're not even near that.
Even if we hit the standard, recycling just isn't as profitable as it used to be. Let's just
Not today.
Let's just look at
not today.
the trends. Even China's seeing it.
Yeah, but I think there's going to come a point in time where China's not going to have any deliveries, and they're going to need that material. So I don't know what's going to happen. This has never been done before. This is a new road it's never happened.
Well, and there are, and you're right, both of you are right, there are multiple issues that we're trying to deal with. We're dealing with our local recycling stream,
Right.
with the waste that's there. We're looking at a global collapse right now. It may be temporary, but it has become a global collapse of recycling because of China's restrictions. Here's my concern before Mr. Ward gives us a presentation on some options and some ways to help what you're talking about. My concern is this, that in this interim period of time, with the uncertainty that's associated with it, because Recology has this waste zero paradigm that it works under, and if it's going to try to retool itself to be able to maintain that as a disadvantaged community here, as a community that's median income level is far lower than state average, we're not going to be able to raise prices to help Recology retool without it dramatically impacting our community financially. And that's my big concern right now in this interim. is not that Recology and other providers can't reinvent themselves and retool and come up with ways to be more efficient and maybe prepare themselves for the long-term future of the new market. My concern is who's going to pay for that? And frankly, I just don't see our community being able to significantly see increases in rates for disposal for this uncertain future. I know it's not popular, but frankly, in the interim, while we're trying to sort this out, I would be more in favor of diverting more to the waste stream than to just start raising rates. And I know you're not asking to raise
No,
rates, Jerry.
I'm not-
I understand that.
I'm not
But
doing
I'm just
that,
saying
no.
that to do these things, it's going to cost money. And if that's going to have to be transferred down eventually to the ratepayer, then we have to really think about this. And while all of us want to be environmentally conscientious, there is a reality of the remoteness of our geography that says that it's always been a challenge, and now we have an end market that has just upset the entire world. And it's not just a Del Norte problem, but the Del Norte problem is exasperated by our remoteness and our own problem. It's both. But I am concerned about the long-term solution being out there and what kind of financial impact that's going to have on our ratepayers to try to get there. And I know you can't answer that. Nobody can answer that.
Nobody can answer that right now, and as of right now, none. There is
I know.
there's none at this time, you know, but we're hoping that there's going to be a recovery. We're hoping to come up with solutions as of everybody else. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
that's
I
just where-
appreciate the hard work.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, Mr. Ward, you want to share with us some thoughts? And
If I could have the PowerPoint, please. So this first slide is to specifically address Commissioner Cowan's comment that of what has the board done since we found out about the problem. And actually, in summary, the board has taken steps. This is a big ship that steers slowly, and so behavioral change is like that. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be taking action, and we have been. Since December 2016, when the board first took action on this and eliminated plastic bags, cartons, styrofoam, and hard plastics. Then in January 2017, Julindra stopped processing recyclables for Recology, and Recology was authorized to dispose of portions of materials collected, and they were also authorized to stop recycling services at households after 3 violations. Since the start of 2017, about a third of the materials collected by Recology as recyclables have been disposed rather than being recycled. And generally, disposal of materials collected for recycling undermines public confidence in recycling programs. So that is a problem we want to address. In February 2017, the board decided not to close the community recycling drop-off bins in the northern parts of the county. In April 2017, there was a special town hall meeting just to discuss this problem, and at that point recycling drop-off bins from the fairgrounds were moved to the Del Norte County Transfer Station to reduce illegal dumping at that location. In September 2017, Julindra Recycling closed and we didn't have a buyback center. Recology immediately started processing their corrugated cardboard at that former Julindra facility. In October 2017, Recology signed a processing agreement with Recology Humboldt, and that processing agreement calls for continual effort by all of us to reduce our contamination until we're reaching 10% or less. So that's a continual effort. December 2017, the authority board banned black plastic bags effective February 2018. And in January 2018, Hamburg WSG opened the buyback center at the fairgrounds, which is still open Wednesdays through Saturdays from 9 to 5.
So to me, this is a laundry list of things that have happened in meetings. I don't see anything other than one thing that this board has done to help, and that is we authorized opaque plastic bags, L2, and we held a town hall. All the other things are just stuff that has happened, and these aren't things that have helped us to reduce waste in our, the contamination in the streams.
Well, the first thing in December did, I mean, the plastic bags, the cartons of styrofoam, hard plastics.
And I apologize, I didn't come onto the board
And the
until-
fact that we authorized a Recology to hold people accountable. I mean, I think that may have been a decision made in a meeting, but until you have enforcement
Okay.
capacity.
So out of half of these, half of them are actual items to
I
make
don't
and
disagree with that,
change.
but we have done some things that gives at least some actionable items and some authority to Recology to try to deal with some of these things. I don't disagree that there's more to be done, and I don't think I would even disagree with maybe we should have gotten more done. I'm not exactly sure how we could have gotten more done, but
Well, let's talk about some of the other options that we could pursue. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is one of two slides looking at options, and we've discussed some of these before. The things that I would like to highlight as added are the potential for the street side recycling bins to only receive beverage containers. That's not an idea that we've discussed before. Currently, those street side recycling containers can receive any of the recyclable items in Recology's programs, and they are a regular target for dumping. So that would be a way to simplify the program, and to part of the challenge of reducing the amount of trash in our recycling programs is focusing where is that trash coming from? What aspects of our programs are prone to higher proportions of dumping? How can we reduce those opportunities for dumping or reduce the incentives that drive people to that inappropriate behavior? So ultimately, what I believe is a good course of action is that last option, which is form an ad hoc or task force to review options. There are a lot of different ways that we need to look at the whole picture of transforming our current collection system and what incentives are there. Now, I know that Ms. Cowan will immediately point out the frustration of the previous ad hoc committee, where essentially the ad hoc committee spent time looking at options and considering those and then making recommendations to the board where they were not accepted. And I acknowledge that frustration. And we might be able to improve that process a little bit by coming back to the board with very specific findings and recommendations to move forward. So that is staff's recommendation. I guess I'll review the last slide, if you could have that one more slide. So a couple other options are to move to a minimum of a 60-gallon trash cart for households of 4 or more, and rate restructuring or contract extension. The current franchise collection agreement expires in a little more than 5 years at the end of June on 2023. And so that we are actually in our the latter half of this contract agreement. And one way that you can consider restructuring an agreement is to potentially consider an extension of that agreement. So that is a possibility that the ad hoc committee could consider. And regardless of whether or not the authority board is inclined to draft and release a new request for proposals for collection services, or if the board would instead prefer to extend the current agreement with Recology, it is an appropriate time to review the service standards, meaning the rules of how things are collected and how they're separated and what recycling programs we have, which describe services that Recology Del Norte currently provides or would provide in future. So the service standards are probably about 30 to 50 pages of review. And so that's not really a practical thing to go over at a board meeting, and it is an appropriate thing that you can dive into with an ad hoc committee. So staff recommendation is that the chair provide the following direction: appoint 2 commissioners to an ad hoc collections franchise review committee to initiate a review of the current collection service standards. This committee could also provide preliminary review of proposals from Recology Del Norte as to how the collections agreement might be extended while addressing anticipated challenges to our current collection system, including the need to reduce the amount of trash in Recology Del Norte's recycling programs. 2, this ad hoc collections franchise review committee's findings should be considered by the full authority board for action no later than June. At the June authority meeting, recommendations could commit to either extending or possibly modifying the current collection agreement with Recology Del Norte or start developing service standards for a new collections franchise. So I'm not saying that we should absolutely extend the agreement. I'm saying that it is appropriate to take a deeper look into what the service standards are and to start a process for coming up with new service standards that can address this contamination challenge.
All right.
I see two perfect people for the job.
Huh.
And sadly, I would recommend that it include both a city and a county member.
Yeah.
You got Chris and Mr. Green, I like that.
I am
I mean, we can't
perfectly.
nominate an ad hoc with 3 of our city.
Sure, Chris would be thrilled.
Oh, I'm texting him right now to let him know I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've taken 2 stabs at this during my time on the board. I've served on the ad hoc to talk about recycling and collections and franchise twice, and we have not got board approval off the things that I have recommended. So I think that a couple of fresh eyes might be a helpful and healthy thing to do, and so my recommendation would be that I appoint Commissioner Greenow and Commissioner Howard to serve as the recycling, I mean, I guess not recycling, is it recycling? What did you call the ad hoc?
Collections franchise review ad hoc.
Collection franchise review ad hoc, if Mr. Greenow is willing to do that.
I'd be more than happy to, but it just, I think that we need to look at more than just recycling at this point, because
well,
the way we're doing things in California isn't working, and it's
I am obliged to remind Commissioner Greenow that we do have a 50% recycle. There's actually a statewide 75% recycling goal and a 50% recycling mandate. So we are committed to our recycling programs, and you can address those with CalRecycle, but those are currently requirements and one of the driving forces behind the laws governing this agency.
Maybe we should be lobbying to change that.
That's an option.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that
Because obviously it's not working the way it is right now.
But we're not talking just recycling. We're talking about the franchise as a whole and the collections, and so that it's a complicated issue. And I think that having, again, I just feel like having another set of eyes on it would be good. And if just as long as Commissioner Cowan understands that if Commissioner Howard refuses, it's you.
I've already done it.
I did it twice. I don't want to hear I've already done it.
I have sat and been probably the most vocal of this board for over the last year, and flat out said, in no uncertain terms, we need to do something.
Sure.
And nobody seems to want to do anything. I mean, now, they may want, no one's willing to take that chance. You know, I've heard things from like Mr. Greenow, well, it's not our job, or, yes, it is our job. We need to do certain things. But there's nobody on this board willing to take those chances or make sure that we do what's right for our community.
I
And
do
it's
believe
very,
we should be
very
doing
frustrating.
something, but I don't believe we should be vilifying our constituents, and I don't believe we should be passing all the cost on to our constituents for a misguided, I believe misguided, and a flawed system in California.
Well, until that system's changed, it's a system we're stuck with.
Then maybe we should be trying to change it.
And you can do that, but that's not for us right here. I mean, it's not going to change overnight. It's not going to
No, it's
happen
not.
right now. And for a year, we've done nothing. So for me to set another ad hoc, another meeting, to bring back to the board and nothing changes, it just doesn't even make sense.
The only thing that does make sense, and I'm not saying this to try to get
You're
you.
gonna talk me into it.
I am.
You are.
Yes,
know you
I am, but I'm going to give you my reason, and then you could still tell me no. The one advantage of having someone who has sat through the ad hoc process and talked about these things is that you're not starting completely from square one with 2 new commissioners of having to discuss all of these items. That's my only,
I'm just as new as Mr. Greenow. We both took office at the same time, so
Okay.
that's not a good excuse.
all right. Well,
I'd be more than happy to sit
all right,
on that
I'm
ad
gonna,
hoc.
I'm going to then appoint, I think by consensus of these three, Commissioner Greenow and Commissioner Howard, and we'll once again remind Commissioner Cowan if Commissioner Howard refuses or won't go, we do need a county representative to be able to make sure that we keep moving forward on this. All right.
I will
so
strive to coordinate those meetings.
that's my appointment. Okay. So everybody play nice. It's okay. No, I'm fine, and I don't disagree with either one of you. And I think Mr. Ward and Mr. Herber would all agree that we're all frustrated with the system. We're frustrated with our own inability to police ourselves, if you would. We're frustrated on lots and lots of levels, but we have got to keep talking about it, and we've got to keep working towards solutions, even if it seems like we're only making incremental adjustments.
Well, and I have to agree with the tone of the conversation from all of the commissioners that in order to reach this 10% contamination standard from where we're at, we are talking about very significant system changes.
Yeah.
And those will not be easy.
No.
We may be talking about rate restructuring, we may be talking about different types of collection systems, we may be talking about dropping some of our current programs that are popular. But if we're to achieve the 10% contamination standard, one thing is certain, that system looks different than what our current system looks like today.
Absolutely, and I 100% agree with you, and it was cemented for me when we were out in Samoa and talking to what they had to do in Humboldt County, and people don't like it, but we have to change it, and that was the only way they were able to do it, was change what we're doing isn't working. And if we keep doing it, it's not going to work. We're pounding our heads against the wall. So until everybody in this room decides and realizes we have to change what we are doing, it's not going to change.
All right,
That's what I was.
thank you. Any public comment? I guess I should take public comments regarding this, if we have any. I'm still appointing the same two people, so.
He just reminded me he's on duty.
All right, thank you. We have nothing regarding the transfer station. We do have some other general solid waste matters, some bin polls,
Yep.
Mr. Ward.
So we've got two requests for bin polls, two authority allocated dumpsters for the Klamath River cleanup on April 28th, plus the request for a waiver of the tipping fees for two additional 40-yard dumpsters and two additional 20-yard dumpsters. So that's a total of waiver of disposal for 6 roll-off bins for the Klamath River cleanup. Staff do recommend approval for that. It's a great community event and organized well by the Klamath by the Yurok tribe. Excuse me.
How many bin polls do we have left? And do we operate those based on our fiscal year?
Their calendar year, and we have a
Calendar.
total of 21. And we are using them, but we do have enough resources that I believe we'll be able to support every request we have through the end of the year, provided that they don't come in don't multiply too badly.
Because we still have several
We do have
bin
several.
polls, yet typical annual requests that'll
Coming
come
up
through
still,
the
yes.
summer and into the fall.
And to be fair, the additional dumpster request for the Klamath River cleanup is new. They've normally hauled their own. So those are two new dumpster requests. But like I said, I believe that we'll be able to support all of the requests we received this year. The other request we have is for a single 40-yard dumpster to be used for a cleanup of multiple parcels at the end of 5th Street. And this request comes from the City of Crescent City, and a very important partner, and we'd recommend approval of that as well.
All right. Mr. Taylor, you want to say anything about what the city's working on, trying to do again on that property?
And then I guess the first thing I'd point out is not just the old Mac and Pete Mill site. So we're also be working on county fairgrounds property, some California Fish and Wildlife property back there, and some other city right-of-way and some other property around there. So it's a pretty large area that we're looking at here with multiple partners. So the 40-yard dumpster hopefully will be enough. We were in there in 2013. We removed about 11 tons of garbage at that time, multiple vehicles, probably 30 shopping carts and various other items. Unfortunately, I'm sad to report that it is far worse than it was in 2013. So yes, hopefully we can be able to complete this cleanup and move forward with a more permanent solution to the problem that we're having back there. And hopefully move forward with some type of redevelopment of the property and reduce the impact to our local businesses and our communities.
So what kind of, are you going to talk about ideas that you've been, I asked before how I'm going to waive this? I'm sorry. Earlier I asked, once we clean it up, when Dominic was up here, what are we going to do to stop? So who's going to address that?
I'd be happy to work with the city in that regard. We haven't really explored that. There are challenges with public access parks, so but we haven't really explored how to stop the dumping, to my knowledge, as a group discussion.
Build a wall?
The city will take a lead in this for now. This is a code enforcement case for us, so we will move forward with that, and we'll explore all options.
When you look back at the fairground property and the fish and wildlife properties, this is my opinion, and I guess speaking from a city perspective, the best way to mitigate the repeat contamination and littering of that property is to redevelop that property, to get it back into regular use where something's on there that doesn't just sit as a empty, vacant, pseudo landfill. I mean, really, that's what needs to happen.
So the crux of the problem right now is it's what's known as an orphan site. So it's an orphan site. It's owned by a defunct company. There really is no ownership of this property right now. So it's going to come down to some legal issues and some further discussion as we move forward. But the long-range solution is try to get some type of control or ownership over the property. And so right now it limits a lot of things that we can do because there's nobody that we can hold accountable, and two, we're limited on the options that we have to go in and do something.
I guess that's what I was trying to get. I get your long-term solution. That makes sense. You can do that everywhere. But I would hate, it isn't going to happen in the next 5 years. So I would hate to be here 5 years down the road and you once again saying, oh, we've got to do it again, and it's even more than it was 5 years ago.
So what's not going to happen in the next 5 years, I guess?
See, and I disagree. If we can find a way to deal with the outstanding property taxes and penalties on that property, I believe that property could be moved and redeveloped in a much shorter period of time. But that's going to take some cooperation on all the entities who are involved in that and a strategic approach to really get that done. And because I agree with you, we can't just keep every 4 or 5 years going back in there and expending resources to clean something up if there's a strategy that says, let's put the,
I just want something up there that stops people. I want something.
That will be part of this,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
of the project. I mean, we're
Fences or,
I don't know. I mean, like with the Pacific Shores or Bridge Rail, in my opinion, but that takes time and money, and but it's going to get monitored. I mean,
Sure,
it's
so
significant, and
in this case, unfortunately, at some point, it might take some type of, court intervention or
Yeah,
court
because
action.
if you don't own the property,
So,
that's
correct.
the same, there's issues.
And so we
You can't even fence it.
and we are going to move in that direction as well. That's what, as I explained earlier, we're treating this as a code enforcement case, so we'll be moving forward in that direction. Not necessarily.
Well, thank you for cleaning it up. That's a start. I appreciate that. I think we all like that. So
Yes, and I'd like to also point out, again, it's multiple property owners, and so their other entities are having issues on their property as well, so we're hopefully get those taken care of.
Good. All right. Thanks, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Ward, anything else?
Recommend approval for both of these.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve these bin polls. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second. Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Chair and Score?
Yes. Very good. 6.2, discussion of possible action regarding ratifying the signature on the engagement letter with Bickmore for an OPEB actuarial evaluation service, not to exceed $4,700. This was an item that Mr. Ward talked to me about, and we needed to act on. So, Mr. Ward, do you want to explain what we got here?
Yes. I requested that we go ahead and sign this letter and send it off to Bickmore, as I didn't feel like it was very controversial. Bickmore is providing these same actuarial services for the county, and they'll be reviewing the same sort of things. And like we do on the audit, it really makes the most sense to use the same firm as is providing those services to the county, as they're reviewing many of the same records, and they provide these services to us before. I was hoping that by signing this agreement, we could then get some numbers from them quickly to incorporate it into the budget. And while we did get this signed, and I very much appreciate the signature, in the meantime, Bickmore has not provided us with the information we were hoping for the budget process, but they are engaged and have already started work. So my request is that we simply ratify this agreement that's already been signed for an amount not to exceed $4,700 to complete the necessary other post-employment benefits actuarial evaluation.
I will just point out that the city also uses Bickmore, so for the same services, so both members of the JPA use Bickmore, so it makes sense to be consistent with that. All right, so do I have a motion then to ratify my signature on this agreement?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Do you have any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll close it. Would you poll the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Chair and Score?
Yes. Very good. 6.3, possible discussion, possible action, review, comment for the draft authority budget for 17-18.
The draft authority budget is among the first
I
budgets.
guess 18-19.
18-19 is
says
what,
17,
it does say
18.
17-18. You're right, it's for 18-19.
But it's yeah.
We were already in 17-18. Thank you for that correction. The draft budget before you is a balanced budget, and it is among the first budgets that are presented, because we are ahead of the schedule for both the Board of Supervisors and the City Council. And this budget is presented after first review by this board to the Board of Supervisors, possibly on May 7th, and I'm sorry, the City Council possibly on May 7th, and the Board of Supervisors possibly on May 8th. And if they have any comments, those are to be prepared in writing and then presented to this board before final adoption in June. For the past 6 years, the authority's annual audits have included findings and recommendations that their rates should be adjusted to increase the pace at which the authority reduces our outstanding liability associated with the landfill. And so this budget does do that in part, and it starts to accumulate some revenues. But those revenues largely go in two directions. About half of it goes to increased payments to Hambro WSG, as that's what we project for the coming year. And about half, or about $212,000, is set aside for expenses associated with potential development of a small volume transfer station in the northern part of the county. So we'll be able to make more progress if we budget for that. Looking at what will happen to rates based on changes to the CPI index, Consumer Price Index, it looks like rates will probably increase by about 2% at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And that rate increase will probably also trigger a disposal component adjustment in Recology's rates. So we're using conservative estimates to project our future revenues, so I believe that these are will come in as we have this year, where I expect our revenues will exceed our budget. It's just a conservative way of doing it, making sure that our revenues are exceeding our expenses. You'll notice in the draft budget, there are some grayed out areas, and those budget lines are associated with some of our grants. And I've consulted with Clinton Shad, the county auditor, about that, because of course we're continuing to use these grants through the end of the fiscal year, and rather than continue to adjust those numbers every time this budget is presented, he thought it would be better just to fold those in at the end of the year. But those are already existing grants that have been awarded, that have been budgeted, that we are currently spending, and it's simply a matter of rolling over those account balances into the next fiscal year. So that explains the grayed out boxes.
So that, just
Yes.
as a question, Mr. Ward, on these grayed out boxes, at least on my copy, it's a gray box. I can't see anything in it. So are the numbers still there?
The dark gray boxes are in the fiscal year 17-18 budget, this fiscal year budget, and you'll notice that those are associated with grants for the fiscal year 18-19. So there were no budget lines for the 18-19 grants in the 17-18 budget, so that's why those are black.
So that's
The
black.
grayed boxes are for grants that were awarded in prior fiscal years that will be rolled over into the 18-19 budget.
So I just want to make sure that looking at this digital copy, there's nothing there to be seen. It's not like it's a grade highlighted number.
That's correct, sir.
It's just gone.
That's correct, sir.
Thank you. I just want to make sure. Gone, and then to be brought back in at the
For the
end.
light gray boxes, those are to be brought back in. For the dark gray boxes, there are no numbers there.
All right, thank you.
So there will be, well, we are reducing our professional services line. We're dropping it down to $40,000. We do anticipate expenses associated with Lawrence and Associates, digital needs services, and then it will also be the year in which we look at updating our union agreement. So there will be probably expenses associated with that. Again, the general way that we came up with our operations projections is we took the amount that we project to receive in this fiscal year 17-18, and we multiplied that times the amount of 17-18 over the amount of 16-17. So we're looking at the same rate of growth. Essentially, we're assuming that our budget more or less stays the same and grows at the current pace it does, or that we've seen in the last year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about this budget or the budget process. But staff do recommend approval of this budget so I can present it to the city and the county, and then would come back to this board for final approval probably in June.
What do you see as the estimated fund balance at the end of the year? I mean, as far as cash flow in regards to income to expense.
For this fiscal year?
Yeah.
This fiscal year, I believe that, well, we'll be in the black income versus expense.
Do you have
But
any idea of what you would anticipate that number to be?
currently, it would be at least 140,000 in the black, but I need to put a caveat on that, in that about $100,000 a year goes to fund depreciation.
I thought we addressed that we were not going to have to put that all towards depreciation.
Unfortunately, as a joint powers authority, unlike the city or the county, we actually do have to fund depreciation, meaning that it's an actual cash expense, meaning that we put $97,000 in our budget, and that if everything goes well, then that $97,000 accumulates to our cash balance, so that those funds are available to replace or repair as needed in future. But as a JPA, we don't have a choice. We're required to fund that depreciation.
What options do we have if we have a positive cash flow outside of the depreciation requirements of taking that money? Let's just say it's $40,000. Can we set that money aside for something specific?
Well, that's what I've tried to do with the Northern Transfer Station budget line, specifically.
Well, I guess what I'm questioning is, as opposed to just a budget item, if we have $40,000 of positive cash flow at the end of 17-18, why not create a capital improvement holding pot and take that $40,000 that we were to the good this year and set it aside and budget for money towards the development of new transfer station? If we know that that's something that could be potentially a really good thing for our community, set that money aside and then start, from a budgetary standpoint, start funneling money into a CIP fund to do that. It's just a thought. I'm a firm believer that when you have a surplus, set that money aside for something you're going to need in the future, as opposed to just rolling it over and spending it. But
we're kind of splitting the difference on that suggestion, if I'm understanding you correctly, in that we have set aside money for development of the Northern Transfer Station. And if we don't use all those monies, those accumulate to our cash balance. Similarly, if revenue comes in ahead of where we are in projections and we don't overspend, then that money also accumulates to our cash balance. One of the things we demonstrated this fiscal year is that, provided that it's not too large of an expense, we can pull money out of our cash balance in each fiscal year to do major capital improvement projects like the transfer station floor repair that we did this year.
okay. All right, any other questions? No? Okay, any public comment on the draft budget? Obviously, this will come back to us after it goes to both the city and the county, and we'll have opportunity to weigh in on those at that time, and then also when it comes back. Public comment? No public comment. We'll close public comment and bring it back to the authority for action on the draft budget.
I move to approve the draft budget
Okay,
for
have a motion.
fiscal year 2017, 20...
18-19.
Oh, 18-19, sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Cowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. All right, 6.4, setting our special meeting. We had some individuals who were not going to be able to be here in May. Our regular date of the 15th. So that wouldn't even been the regular meeting, would it?
Our regular meeting would have been the 15th, and at the last meeting, the board requested that I reserve the room for May 14th at 4:30, and so that's the arrangements that have been made. 4:30, I was understanding that that was a request of Commissioner Greeno.
Yeah.
3:30 at the bottom of the page is incorrect. It should be 4:30. I apologize for that.
All right. So, is that acceptable to the board?
Yes.
I'll
Okay.
consider that consensus direction.
All right. And please make sure that you have adjusted your schedule and note the time being at 4:30 instead of our regular 3:30 time. Discussion and possible approval of a letter concerning AB 21.
AB 2921
2921, I'm sorry.
is essentially it's called a producer responsibility program, but functionally it's a volunteer program promoted by the styrofoam industry. And as a volunteer program, there's no need for a law. So for that reason, a variety of groups are opposing this because it very much muddies the water as to what a producer responsibility program is. So staff do recommend opposing this legislation, and I would have had a letter drafted, but unfortunately there was not time prior to the meeting. So staff recommend sending a letter opposing 2921 and authorizing the chair to sign following the director's drafting of such a letter.
Okay.
Is this a timely piece? Or
It is.
So we can't draft a letter and bring it back?
No, unfortunately, legislation and letters supporting or opposing register mostly with the committees that are hearing the pieces of legislation as they move through, and waiting a month really changes everything. So oftentimes, if you wait a month, it's the same as voting it down and not taking any action at all.
Okay.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Cal?
Yeah,
are good things.
Okay. Do we have consensus to go ahead and draft this letter opposing this legislation?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. You don't need a motion for that, do you? You have consensus?
I think consensus is fine.
Okay. I will, along that same line, I would like to bring up another piece of legislation that is concerning. It is AB 1912. I don't know, Mr. Ward, if you've been familiar with this, but it specifically addresses JPAs, and since we are a JPA, I think we need to get out in front of this. Both the League of Cities and CSAC have weighed in of their opposition of this bill, and so it's going to be heard. I didn't know about it. It was heard yesterday by the Public Assembly of Public Employees Retirement and Social Security System, PERS. So it's really tied to benefits and what JPAs would be required to do, and so
I
don't know
will
where all of
investigate
our
that.
steps are,
Do you know
but
anything else?
it appears to me to be something we need to look into, and I wasn't made aware of it until just this last week. This article was written on the 10th of April, so AB 1912. I'd very much like you to be able to take a look at that, and I know I'll be taking a look at it and having staff look at it from the city standpoint, and you might want to suggest having county staff look at that too, so.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Mayor, or, sorry, Chair.
Chair, yeah.
I believe what the legislation would do is when you have a JPA, you can expressly state in your agreement that the individual member entities are not liable for the debts and liabilities of the entity, which is currently what we have and most JPAs have. It's one of the reasons you create them, and what this legislation would do is make the member entities responsible for the post-retirement benefits of the employees of the agency. So it's clearly something that both the city and the county are very, need to be very interested in and pay attention to.
Yeah, so.
But that's
like
essentially what
our
the proposal is.
Our large payment that we just made for OPEB, that could have been passed on to the city and county, that responsibility, if something was to happen with the JPA.
Right, in the event that they
And when we
thought
looked at
was-
what they are estimating our long-term liability being at, what was it, $1.3 million? Not sure that the county and the city want to split $1.3 million of unfunded liability, so, yeah, thank you, Martha, for helping us understand a little bit about that. But I think we need some research on all of our member partners and on behalf of the authority.
We'll do so.
Okay, I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything? No?
No.
Mr. Ward, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will be adjourned until our special meeting on May 14th at 4:30 PM right here. Thank you.
Thank you.